Hello, my name is Davina, and this is for SBS 200. Um, I'm basically going to answer a few questions and talk about them. So, the first one is, how does research on life conditions that accelerate telomere shortening illustrate the joint influence of hereditary and environment on biological aging? So, a telomere is basically a distinctive structure which is found at the ends of the chromosomes, and the question is, how do life conditions accelerate the telomere shortening, which in turn would shorten the lifespan, and how does the environment or hereditary affect that as well? And I think that there's a lot of different things that can go into that, but basically, a lot of studies have shown that cancer or that an unhealthy lifestyle can lead to the shortening, which can give you a shorter lifespan. And it can also have to do with your heritage, and if that is passed on through the genes, which automatically would make you have it shorter, but there are things that you can do to prevent it, like if you have cancer or smoking, things like that, that can decrease your chances of making that worse. And environment as well, if you have a healthy environment, like going outside, being active, or just getting sun every day, things like that can help to decrease your chances of this shortening. The second question is, why are people in committed relationships likely to be more sexually active and satisfied than those who are dating several partners? And the answer to this question is that there are a lot of different factors. It's not particularly based off of age, but one reason is that there are less worries. So if you're worrying less, then you're more likely to be more active. So this can be whether it's worried about diseases or worried about not being satisfied the right way. People in committed relationships are more likely to be able to be openly to communicate openly, which would make them more likely to be satisfied, which would make them more likely to be more active than those who are dating several partners. And it could also make them safer, which would make them feel more comfortable. And there's also a correlation between that as well. The third question is, how does expertise affect information processing? Why is expertise necessary for but not the same as creativity? And I think that expertise can help you to know the information in and out, but once you know the information in and out in a particular way, it kind of makes it uniform where there's no room to move in between. And when you're an expert at some sort of information, it's important to still leave room to be creative with that information. And I think that there's a difference between those two, and it's good to be an expert on the information so that you can process it correctly, but it's also important to still be creative so that you can have the other ideas and thoughts around this information to be able to explore that. The fourth question is, what student and college environment characteristics contribute to favorable psychological changes during the college years? So student and college environment characteristics that make changes psychologically, I think, is the environment of not having an authoritative figure almost. I think that you have professors and other people telling you what to do, but for the most part, you're independent, which leads to some sort of psychological change that you have to do things for yourself, and that you have to be more responsible, which leads to that change. I also think that since everything is not on your professor telling you what to do or somebody constantly on you to turn in assignments, it also leads to the psychological change in that you have to be constantly on it and reminding yourself mentally on what you need to do. And it also creates a social balance so that you can keep that time management. What cultural changes have led to the emergence of the period known as emerging adulthood? I think the cultural changes that have led to emerging adulthood is that in some cultures there is the authoritative parenting style where they don't let go, or it's very strict and a lot of certain rules, but with the emerging into adulthood, that's where those things kind of start to let go, and it is no longer, it's still part of the culture, and there are still some things that are held on to through that, but since it's emerging in, that's when they start to become independent, and they have the choice to make whether they want to keep some of those culture characteristics or whether they want to go off and change something about that and make their own decisions, but they are physically and mentally capable of doing that, which leads to the emerging adulthood. According to Levinson, how do the life structures of men and women differ? And this is the last question. Levinson has a theory of basically dreams, and in those dreams he interprets the different types of dreams between men and women, sort of at the adulthood age or young adulthood going into that. And basically what he discovers is that they have different types of dreams, and men are more likely to just be looking at one thing in their dreams or in their goals, and what they're expecting of the future is just one thing, and that could be like their career choice, or that's most likely what it is to be in a man. It's where they are in their career. And for women, he found that it was likely for them to be thinking of several different things at once, whether that was their career and their family and how they are successful all at one time in that dream, instead of just focusing on one thing. And he also found that these occur at different ages, so it's not the same for everybody, and for both men and women, and that through this he's discovering the emerging of the different stages of life, so infant, toddler, and young adults, and then adulthood.